Good afternoon. I'm Roy Priest, the Chair of the Montgomery County Housing Opportunities Commission. I'd like to welcome you to this virtual meeting of the Commission. I want to note that we are holding this meeting virtually today because our boardroom is inaccessible, and there's also the associated audio-visual room is also non-functional. Therefore, we are convening this meeting virtually, but we will post a recording of the meeting immediately after the meeting concludes, so that you will be able to follow the proceedings that occurred. I'd like to welcome all the public and members of the staff who are attending and participating in this meeting. I'd like to acknowledge the members of our commission who are present. Commissioner Jeffrey Merkowitz, our co-chair, Commissioner Robin Solomon, Chair Pro Tem, Commissioner Paul Weech, Commissioner Jonathan Miller, Commissioner Linda Kroon, and I think that's all of our commissioners, with the exception of Commissioner Azola Shaw, who is not present at the present time. So with that, I will go ahead and proceed with the agenda for the meeting, unless there are any requests for modifying the agenda. Seeing now, the thing we'll go through first is, in fact, uh, we had no one for the community forum. So therefore, I will move the agenda item to the report of the president, and I will turn to our president, Chelsea Andrews.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, the HOC team, and members of the public. I am pleased to share an update in regards to HOC's activities. Next slide. Commissioners and members of the public, as you know, we are marching along with our 5-year strategic plan. In fact, we are on year 3 of our strategic plan, or nearing year 3 of our strategic plan. There are 3 main goals that we are focused on. One is expanding affordable housing in Montgomery County. Second, enhancing the lives we touch through supportive services and partnerships. And third, excelling as a world-class organization. Next slide. As it stands in terms of our overall 5-year plan, we have a public dashboard that is available on our website at www.hocmc.org, where members of the public can see transparently how we are advancing our plan. We are currently at 61% progress across our main 3 goals. Next slide. Today, we will focus on excelling as a world-class organization. Every board meeting, we rotate over the 3 main goals and provide detailed updates. Within excelling as a world-class organization, there are 3 sub-goals. One is to excel as a world-class place to work. Another is to excel by providing world-class customer service. And third is to excel through modern technology and data systems. Next slide. In terms of goal 3 achievement, we have definitely seen a great deal of progress. As you may recall, commissioners, this is the one goal that we as an agency started on even before finalizing the full plan, in terms of taking the feedback that we heard from members of the public related to customer service initiatives and getting started as quickly as we could. Across the board, we have seen a 75% progress as it pertains to this particular goal. Next slide. In terms of goal 3A, excelling as a world-class place to work, our HR division has been extraordinarily busy. In terms of the last 3 months in talent acquisition, we have retained 12 new full-time staff members. Pleased to share out a new executive leader that has joined us, Vice President of Real Estate Development, Carlos Bonner. We also have hired a great deal of temporary employees and competitive promotions internally, and to date have hired 45 full-time employees, 36 temp employees, and 13 competitive promotions. You see a photo here of some of our HR outreach staff members who have begun to attend various recruitment fairs across the county. So this is a photo from one of those events. Next slide. We also internally have launched a new learning and development page on our intranet. This is so that employees can easily gain access to training resources, development opportunities, and learning tools at the agency. And so this is the place where both our corporate training calendar and other materials, online training materials, etc., are available. Additionally, just last month, we had a really wonderful mental health and wellness engagement series, a number of initiatives, both virtual and in person, at both the HQ and EDP locations, focused on bringing more attention on the importance of well-being and work-life balance. Next slide. We also are very pleased to share, and I look forward to commissioners having an opportunity to meet our 8 college interns for our inaugural summer internship program. We have representatives from the University of Maryland, Duke, our University of Maryland, Baltimore County, GW, Lincoln Tech. These are some really talented young people that we're happy to have on our team and look forward to the impact that they will have while with us. We also were fortunate to secure a great partnership with the University of Maryland's Do Good Institute that helps support the funding for one of our policy interns. Next slide. In terms of labor relations, as the commission knows, we successfully negotiated our CBA requirements in terms of wage negotiations and concluded that and presented before the commission and received support to ratify our FY26 wage adjustments and annual pay increments that apply to both represented and unrepresented merit staff. Next slide. Switching gears to the focus on world-class customer service, our customer service team and leadership continue to closely monitor data around walk-ins, our calls, the experience that our customers have, both at our properties as well as in interfacing with our various offices. This chart shows that our numbers range, but in the last quarter was at approximately 18,745 phone calls that were answered over the last quarter, and definitely demonstrate that there are reach outs and that our team is constantly engaged in providing customer service support for our customers. Next slide. In terms of our ratings, you'll see that 67% of our customers experience excellent customer service. We've received a rating of 20% of average and 14% full, reflected a poor experience. Of course, we take that very seriously. We're constantly looking at the reasons why people aren't having the experience we desire, and definitely fine-tuning and bringing in new technology and resources to enhance our customer service experience. But overall, we are pleased to report that more than 2/3 of our customers rate their experience as excellent. Next slide. Oh, I do want to highlight, and I moved us along. However, we also recently instituted a new protocol of recording our interactions at the front desk experiences at our properties. There's proper notification of that, but it allows for us to ensure that we give that high-level customer service we desire. It allows for training opportunities. And in the very near future, all of our calls will also have that same oversight. In terms of world-class customer service and our maintenance and work orders, our emergency work orders continue to be responded to within 24 hours. You see that our high priority work orders, our goal is to address within 5 days. You see that we're continuing to work towards that goal, currently at 55%. Next slide. And in terms of excelling through modern technology and data systems, our IT team is working hard at transitioning all of our properties to our Yardi platform. The last portion of our portfolio is managed with our third-party property management company. It's a bit of a tongue twister, Bozzuto. And we have a timeline to transition their properties, which will be concluded in the fall. Next slide. Digital Equity Initiative, we've made great strides here. We are moving forward with this initiative. As you can see, we're pleased to report out that both Cider Mill and Battery Lane now have their infrastructure complete with the Digital Equity Initiative. This is a goal to bring high-speed internet to more than 1,500 homes in our portfolio through partnership with the state and the county. There are additional properties that will be serviced with this initiative by August, and they're outlined here in the report. Next slide. And I am looking for my dear friend, Vice President of Government Affairs. I'm not certain if you're pinned. Here you are. All right. Ken Silverman, I'd like to turn it over to Ken to give some updates.
Thank you, Chelsea. Good evening, commissioners. For the record, Ken Silverman, Vice President of Government Affairs. Have a pretty robust update this evening. So we are tracking the FY27 appropriations, and the House has moved forward their appropriations bill for HUD. It does have a significant cut, but and we provided a more detailed analysis in the written report, but it's essentially flat funding for the programs that HOC relies on. The good news is that the House did reject or not include many of the sort of policy riders that the president had proposed, including requiring work requirements or term limits on vouchers. And they did actually reject HUD's proposal to reallocate the continuum of care funding in a way that would essentially end permanent supportive housing. The House also has moved forward with a new version of the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. Again, in the written version, we have an analysis of how that compares to the previous versions. So that's now sitting in the Senate, and remains to be seen whether they will move forward with it. And unfortunately, we did want to share, we're watching closely that HUD has issued a new NOFO that would significantly reduce the ability to use continuum of care funding for permanent supportive housing. So, if you remember, there was a similar effort last year. There was a legal challenge, and ultimately Congress in the FY26 appropriations included language that kind of prevented that from moving forward. So hoping to see similar ability to forestall that this time around, but definitely a challenge. Good news is, with a little more time, I know the county and our other partners have been working on, and did in the budget try to work through, how the county could help to mitigate any harm if there is a significant change there. Next slide, please. At the state level, Governor Moore had a signing ceremony for the two significant housing bills that he sponsored. Did want to highlight, there has been talk of a special session to take on redistricting. I think it's unlikely that they would include other issues in that special session, but obviously something we'll keep an eye on. And then wanted to share this permit data that the state Department of Planning released recently, which shows that obviously this includes Montgomery County, so we're contributing to this, but that the decline in new housing starts is something that we're seeing statewide. So I know that's something we've obviously been tracking very closely. Next slide, please. So county update, wanted to include a more detailed breakdown of how the county budget came out now that we're sort of through the other side. I'm sure many of you have seen some of the coverage. It was an excruciatingly difficult budget for the council because by rejecting the county executive's tax increases or tax increase proposals, they found themselves with a pretty big hole to fill and did end up with a significant cut to what MCPS had requested. There were some other departments and agencies that did receive cuts. So HOC came out. We did not get any cuts. We did get some additional funding. We definitely did not get all of the additions that we requested, but just wanted to sort of lay out each of the buckets of county funding that we receive here. And these are the ones that we receive directly. And then obviously through the HIF, we often receive other funding, for individual projects. Next slide, please. Wanted to highlight this report by AEI that did some analysis of regional property tax rates and revenue. So some interesting results. One, as you can see, we're not significantly higher than the rest of the region, at least on that particular slice of taxation. And actually, you can see there's a number of other areas that have significantly higher tax rates than we do on the property tax front. So just an interesting analysis we thought the commission would be interested in. Also definitely wanted to highlight in the new point in time count, there was a major drop in the number of unsheltered homeless counted, almost identical to the large increase that we saw last year. The county was glad to attribute part of that to the establishment or an expansion of its short-term housing and resolution program, which is a sort of a new emergency housing program that HHS operates. They've added significant funding into that resource. Also wanted to highlight there's a zoning text amendment that was introduced that's required to conform our accessory dwelling unit law with the more permissive state law, which passed not this past session, but the one before that. And so that it's not huge changes, but should get slightly easier to build an ADU in Montgomery County, once this is adopted. Go to the next slide, please. I think we're back to Chelsea.
Thank you. Commissioners, just a couple of other spotlights, highlights here. We are currently in open season in terms of our resident advisory board. There is opportunity for individuals who are interested in applying for the RAB to do so online. The deadline is June 22nd, and this is a really robust group of residents that represent and customers that represent various aspects of our clientele. Elections will be held on August 18th and 19th. And of course, once the new board members are established, look forward to reintroducing the new board to our HOC commissioners in September. We also are really excited to share out that there's an art competition that's underway. This is an opportunity for our customers across our portfolio, voucher holders, seniors, young people, to submit their art that we look forward to putting on display in our new headquarters here. Our thoughts are that the competition, which we extended the dates, is open until June 24th. Voting is planned for the June 26th through July 3rd timeframe. Commissioners, stay tuned. You will be solicited to vote on a number of pieces that will be designated as commissioner selected artwork. And we will compensate our artists for allowing us to display their art. It will be on commission throughout the year. We'll come up with a schedule, allow those young people and or our seniors, our adults, to bring their families and loved ones to our HQ and see their art on display. So really looking forward to all of the creative outcome that we should experience here in the next month. Next slide. Some upcoming activities. June 25th is the Tony S. Davis Memorial Scholarship Awards dinner. All commissioners are really strongly encouraged to attend. You should have received or will receive the details for that dinner. But we're also going to celebrate our first class of Ready for Life program graduates. And these are the young people who have been really engaged in a well-crafted program to help them prepare as they move into adulthood. We also will have this summer our FSS graduation. The date will be provided here shortly. And on June 18th, we do have a financial education program focused on insurance. Again, I just want to highlight that our programs are open to individuals on the wait list as well. You could register for our programs on our website, www.hocmc.org. Next slide. And with that, I open for questions or comments. Thank you.
Are there questions from commissioners?
I do, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Ken, I just wanted to clarify, the HUD rule is it's proposed, not finalized.
Yeah, so it was, and I will admit, I'm still totally getting to grips with exactly what it means. But it was, new requirements in the NOFO that would fund the, that would reissue the grants for this coming cycle. And I think one of the reasons that the court case was successful last time was that it was a renewal. And they tried to change the rules kind of midstream, but this is that for this year it's a new cycle, so there may be a stronger ability for them to impose new rules. So as we get more information, can definitely share some resources that explain more clearly what the issues are. And
Just from the press, it sounded like it was going from like 90 to 30% permanent supportive. Is that?
Yeah, that was their pitch, was that right now you're allowed to spend up to 90% of your continuum of care funding on permanent supportive housing. This would, say that that's a maximum of 30%. The other element that I know they've tried to do is change some rules that basically make it harder for more successful counties like Montgomery County has been to get more funding out of the sort of fixed pot. So I know that's a major concern as well. There's some things that have been in the NOFO in the past that basically provide more money if your program scores really well. And they've proposed to change some of that scoring in a way that, could end up having less money and then only being able to spend, as you said, 30%.
And would the House language, the language in the House proposal prohibit HUD from moving forward with this as far as we know?
I don't believe so. So there was, and this is why it's a little confusing for me. I was trying to figure out how to, express that clearly. So the president's proposed budget I think separately proposed to eliminate the continuum of care grants altogether
I see.
and move all of that money into the emergency solutions grants, which are, where they feel, I guess they would have more control and more ability to set those rules. The House THUD bill it rejected that shift, so they kept the money in the continuum
I
of
see.
care. And the hope would be that they would, if Congress includes language as they did in FY26, they could potentially address this. And certainly I'm hope, but sort of remains to be seen. And I'm sure there will be another round of court challenges as well.
Thank you.
Following up on that point about supportive housing, do you have any sense now, as being the second year, as to reason, Ken, that there is this declining support for supportive housing? Where's that coming from?
I mean, I think, you're certainly you are as a deeply informed group as I could hope to ask about that. I know, sense of targeting the housing first model, which this is really a core part of where, you're providing folks with housing first, and then, separately seeking to treat, whatever other issues they may have. And, the Trump administration has been very clear that they prefer a model where you're required to, have treatment, before you could consider housing, and that funding should really be focused on providing those treatment programs, I suppose. So sort of a more punitive model. It does seem that this is something that HUD, is not letting go of. They've been very, very dogged on this, more so than with, for example, their proposal to, try to push the voucher program to the states or some of the other things they've rolled out, and kind of let fall aside.
Only there were evidence about which approach worked best.
Yeah.
Ken, you didn't mention HUD's or the administration's proposal or announcement, I guess, ending the Restore Rebuild initiative. Can we talk about the impact of that on HOC? And also, I guess I wasn't sure whether that was statutory, whether they could do that administratively, or since the Faircloth Amendment was statutory. So just curious if there's any thoughts on that announcement.
Yeah, I'll have to give you a more detailed. I certainly did see it. We don't have any proposed Faircloth projects other than obviously the one that we're doing in partnership with at Springville Terrace. But I think that one is in the pipeline already and not impacted, although I'll let our real estate colleagues verify that and follow up. And certainly would hope to see some legal challenge, as you suggested, Commissioner, and hope your interpretation is right there.
Right. And just to reiterate, and I believe the guidance that we have received is if you're not currently in the pipeline to do Faircloth to RAD, that you've missed the window of opportunity, but that projects that are already advancing are able to move forward with closing those deals. We have in our portfolio would have had approximately, I think, around 670 units that if we were able to advance in this way, we would have been able to explore in the future. And so not certain where the legal challenges may lead us here in the future. And if there are other approaches that different administrations may be able to make in the future that can change that outcome. But as it stands, there were definitely unused Faircloth units in our coffers.
Were we considering use of any of those in the Sage?
No,
No, okay. Okay.
thank you.
Chelsea,
Um,
I have a question, if you don't mind. Can y'all hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay. I have a question in regards to the customer service. You indicated that that it's 14% poor calls, correct? You
Yes,
said
that's the
14.
rating that we've received this last quarter.
Yeah, 14% poor calls. So I'm just asking, do they say that this call is being recorded or no?
That is a new initiative that we're getting ready to roll out. We just trained all of the staff in regards to our protocols for that,
Mm-hmm.
and that is what's next. We have put up signs in our lobby areas across all of our properties to indicate that your walk-ins are being recorded. And so here in the very near future, all of our calls will also be recorded as well.
Okay, and the 18,745, is that a right number to say? Well, that's how many calls the customer service take
That's
or
our
have taken?
calls as well as walk-ins over the last quarter. Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll just note, and I hear that you're looking at this already, but that, these numbers are, I guess, what last quarter compared, the numbers were much better. I think we had a much higher rate of excellent and much lower rate of poor. So I don't know if we have any way of knowing, if the mix of issues is different or what's changed to change those ratings, but if we should obviously keep an eye on the trend line.
Oh, without a doubt, we are definitely closely monitoring, as well as implementing different technology. For example, if calls are taking longer than a certain period of time to answer, people have the option for us to call back. So there's other technology that we're trying to deploy. We're looking at what days and times we get these calls, so that if people are on hold for longer periods, we can staff appropriately. There is a great deal of work that takes place in terms of looking at what the type of calls were. And then with the new approach that we're taking in terms of recording, we'll be able to even go a step further, so that when calls are rated poorly, to have an opportunity to hear and provide training if needed. So we're taking the steps that we need to, so that we can shift that percentage and get more excellent in terms of experience for our customers.
Separately on the customer service, I just, want to congratulate the staff on, consistently hitting those emergency work orders within 24 hours.
Mhm.
On the high priority work orders, we seem a little stuck. And I'm just wondering what the plan is to get us, up to 100% of those also being hit within the target.
Mhm. And those work orders still get done in good fashion in terms of it doesn't take an extended amount of time to close those work orders. But there are different factors that come into play in terms of the non-emergency work orders. Sometimes it could be parts, sometimes it could require multiple visits and follow-ups. We can come back and not be able to gain access. There are so many different reasons. And so I can provide more details in terms of the type of approaches that we're taking to try to increase that number or reduce the time frame it takes to close those work orders. But I can assure you that it's not a reflection of effort. So there's so many different variables. If we have an incident at a property, or if there's a unit that takes much longer, that percentage will weigh into all of the other, that time frame will weigh into can drag down the overall time frame as well. But we will provide more details on that data point the next time we come before the board.
Yes, yeah, I was going to suggest that maybe what you could do is, because that is based upon completing a project work order within 5 days. So if in fact they're being if 90% of them are being completed within 10 days, then if you had some chart that showed maybe when was the majority of them being completed beyond that 5 days, that would tell a story too.
Okay, thank you for that feedback.
Is the 5 days something that's measured by HUD, or is that our own target?
This is our own target. We don't have, because we're no longer public housing, we don't have deadlines that are set by HUD, but we do have our own. And of course, with the voucher program, we have a certain time frame in which, if there is a complaint inspection, we have to get out. There are other programs that do require, of course, our HIF funding and other compliance requirements require us to address health and safety hazards in a certain period of time. So we comply with those, and of course, code requirements as well. So, but it's not the typical HUD timelines that are set forth for public housing. Yes.
Madam President, can I shift quickly back to technology? And I think on previous presentations you've made to us on goal number 3, on strategic plan number 3, you said that appropriately that you were going to cautiously review the use of artificial intelligence in our operations and how it might help us do our work better. And I'm just wondering, is that a formal process you're going through, or are you doing it more when it's presented? In part, I'm asking because I think I know Yardi has been moving down that road fairly fast to incorporate artificial intelligence in their services. So maybe just a quick update on that, and maybe it's a longer conversation down the road.
We do. We have an internal task force that's evaluating the use of AI. We have a consultant that's providing us with counsel. We are working very closely with Yardi in gaining insight in terms of how they are applying AI. There's regional colleagues that are meeting at other housing authorities on a cadence that will be participating in those convenings in terms of how other housing authorities are applying AI. We have created a triage strategy where looking at allowing AI for various departments where PII is not as much of a concern. So there are pilot programs, different divisions. For example, our public affairs division has probably been the most robust in terms of utilizing various technology. And this is all led by our Vice President of Information Technology. So we have that group that is convening and evaluating where we should explore next. And yes, we have an ongoing relationship with Yardi where we have sought their input. We've also solicited feedback from our banking partners who happen on the in terms of different fields and industries. Banking is one of the industries that's leading the AI space. And so we've asked for additional insight from our PNC partner in terms of how they are deploying AI. So we're exploring it all. We're definitely being cautious. As the commission might recall, there still is outstanding litigation in regards to what happens if you create work product, templates, forms, anything that you relied on AI technology to create, and who owns it. And so that litigation is still outstanding, and that has been one of the drivers for not going too far, in addition to, of course, the concerns around privacy. But where there is the least exposure for the agency, we have various pilots that are currently deploying AI.
Terrific, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Are there any other questions from commissioners? If not, I want to thank you, Chelsea, for the report for you and Ken, and appreciate this being done on a monthly basis. And
Thank
we are making good progress in that area. So we will become world-class.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, so with that, I'll move to the Commissioners Exchange. Are there any items? I just would mention just one. I know our current commissioners are aware of the fact that the county executive posted an opening of vacancies for our commission. And so I hope that those persons who are impacted will in fact submit by the deadline the required application for reconsideration for continuing their participation on the commission. Are there any other items? Seeing none, we don't have a report from the advisory board today, do we?
We do. I just received a note that Mr. Pinchuk is in our midst. Here we go. Hi, Mr. Pinchuk, you can feel free to speak. Thank you.
Okay,
Go
thank you,
ahead, guys.
President Andrews. Good afternoon, Commissioners, President Andrews, staff, and members of the public. For the record, my name is Adam Pinchuk, President of the Resident Advisory Board, and I plan to provide a brief update on the board's meeting held on May 18th, 2026. A portion of the meeting was devoted to a review of the proposed revisions to chapters 1, 8, and 9 of the Housing Choice Voucher Administrative Plan. We were joined by Darcel Cox, Vice President of Compliance, and Elliot Rule, Management and Compliance Analyst. Mr. Rule provided a thorough overview of the proposed changes, after which the board members had the opportunity to ask questions and discuss the revisions on how it would affect program participants. Following its review, the board voted to endorse the proposed amendments. On behalf of the Resident Advisory Board, I would like to thank Darcel Cox and Elliot Rule for their thorough presentation as well as their time. The board also conducted a review of the final proposed amendments to the RAB bylaws. We were joined by Aisha Memon, Senior Vice President of Legal Affairs, who provided legal guidance and answered questions from board members. Following the discussion, the board approved several significant amendments intended to strengthen and modernize the bylaws. These revisions address a number of matters, including election rules to the board, virtual participation on the board, and procedures for filling vacancies. The board believes these changes will provide greater clarity and consistency for both current and future resident advisory boards. I would also like to express the board's appreciation to Ms. Memon for sharing her time and expertise to the board in its discussions. The meeting concluded with a presentation from Davida Rowley and Rita Harris regarding the upcoming Resident Advisory Board elections. Their presentation covered the election timeline, candidate and voter eligibility requirements, voting procedures, and HOC's planned outreach efforts to ensure residents are informed and encouraged to participate in the election process. The Resident Advisory Board remains committed to serving as an effective voice for HOC residents, and we appreciate the continued support of the commissioners and HOC staff as we work together to strengthen resident engagement and participation. Thank you for your time. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? I first want to thank you very much, Mr. Pinchuk, for your detailed reports that you've been providing each month to the commission. So we appreciate that and the work that's being done by the Resident Advisory Board. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Quick question. Is the whole board turning over?
Yes,
And how often are the elections?
every 3 years.
All right. And are people allowed to run for reelection?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
If
Yeah,
there-
it's just also, want to thank you, Adam, for the regular contributions. It's been very helpful, and have appreciated your service and that of the other members of the RAB, and I I hope you and others are considering, we're willing to, to run again. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been my honor to represent the RAB as its president and to present in front of all of you these past 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will advance the agenda for the meeting, which at this stage includes requires the approval of minutes for our May 13th open session and our May 13th closed session. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. So ordered. Thank you very much for that. We will now move to the consent section of the agenda. This is the approval to appoint commissioners to the board of directors of various development corporations. And we have 20 of those development corporations. So the members of the commission serve as the board of these various development corporations. So on this item of consent, can I get a motion to approve this consent item?
So moved. Second.
Probably moved and second to approve resolution 26-25, which is the approval to appoint commissioners to the board of directors of various development corporations. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. So ordered. We'll now move to the committee reports. The first report comes from our Administrative and Regulatory Committee. It is chaired by Commissioner Kroon.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Linda Kroon. Oh my goodness, wait a minute. Hold on one second. My name is Linda Kroon, as I stated before, and I am the head or the chairman of the Administrative and Regulatory Affairs Commission. This item to be presented this afternoon is to authorize the approval proposed revisions to chapters 1, 8, and 9 of the Housing Choice Voucher, that's HCV, Administrative Plan. This item was presented to the Administrative and Regulatory Committee during the May meeting. I would like to introduce President Chelsea Andrews to provide an overview of this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This particular item came before our Administrative and Regulatory Commission committee, just previously this month, and as explained to the ARC committee, one of many meetings in which we will be presenting various aspects of the administrative plan that we have recommendations around streamlining and ensuring that it's clear for our customers and the public. As you may recall, almost over a year ago, at the same time we were looking at our admin plan and making modifications to align it with HOTMA requirements, we also leveraged the consultant to look holistically at the admin plan and evaluate where there might be opportunities to, one, ensure that it's compliant with HUD requirements, as well as that it is streamlined and is clear for those who follow or read the admin plan. This effort has been led by our compliance team, which is led by Darcel Cox. I will turn it to her. And again, we will continue to come back before both the ARC committee and the full board as we make our way through these proposed modifications. Ms. Cox.
Thank you, President Andrews. For the record, I am Darcel Cox, Vice President of Compliance, and today I come before you to ask for approval for proposed revisions to the administrative plan for chapters 1, chapters 8, and chapter 9. Next slide. So the proposed revisions to chapter 1, Statement of Policies and Objectives, we reformatted the local goals section, removed obsolete language, enhanced language pertaining to reasonable accommodations and language access. Next slide. Chapter 1 continued. We added a section specifically for deconcentration of poverty. Next slide. Proposed revisions to Chapter 8, voucher issuance and briefings. We enhanced language throughout the chapter for clarity, added regulatory language pertaining to information related to HUD's-led safe housing rule. We replaced added regulatory language regarding security deposits, and this was based on an update to the CFR. Next slide. Proposed revisions to Chapter 9, request for approval of tenancy and contract execution. We enhanced wording for clarity, added language regarding reasonable accommodations and special housing types. We added regulatory language pertaining to tenant leases and enhanced language pertaining to execution of HAB contracts. Next slide. HUD requires a minimum of a 30-day public comment period for administrative plan updates. The public comment period included 32 days and concluded today at 3:06 p.m. HOC advertised the public comment period for the administrative plan on May 8th, 2026 in the Washington Post, as well as the Washington Hispanic. Documents were made available to the public on HOC's website and physical offices. And as mentioned, the public hearing concluded today at 3:06 p.m. and HOC did not receive any comments and no one appeared for the public comment hearing. Next slide. Will the commission join staff's recommendation, which the Administrative and Regulatory Committee also endorsed at its meeting on May 19th, 2026, to the proposed revisions for chapters 1, 8, and 9. Staff requests that the commission approve the proposed revisions, and this concludes my presentation. I will take any questions at this time.
Are there any questions from commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've got a comment and a question. Just on the, thank you for the presentation, by the way. Thank you, very helpful in the material. Just I'd be interested in seeing the briefing material that we provide to the applicants on the deconcentration of poverty. I mean, in the material that you sent around, you talks about including briefing customers on child school performance, employment opportunities, crime safety, quality of housing, et cetera. And it sounds really pretty thorough and helpful. And I'd just be curious, I'd just be interested in seeing the material. So that was a comment. And then on the question on the language regarding security deposits, I try to look at the old language and the new language, and I wasn't quite, I guess I wasn't quite clear on what the substance of the changes are. Are we being more permissive with regards to what landlords can charge tenants for security deposits? I just wasn't quite, I wasn't quite clear whether the changes were substantive or stylistic.
So the changes, we made the changes based on an update to the CFR so that we could match exactly what HUD's updated language is.
I see. So we're just conforming our language to the underlying regulation.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And we
Are
can
there any more questions?
we can share the briefing materials with you also.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Thanks, Madam Chairman.
If there's no more questions, can I get a motion to approve resolution 2626?
So moved.
Second,
Second,
It's been properly moved and second to approve resolution 2626. All in favor signify by aye.
aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the next committee report, which is a report from the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee that I chair. And we have a number of items that are on the agenda for today. The first item on the agenda is the procurement services related to the selection of construction managers to go into our construction manager pool. With that, I'll turn to our president, Chelsea Andrews.
Thank you. Commissioners, this item did go before our DevFin committee. It is our standard approach towards trying to ensure that we're engaging a broad range of experts to support our overall mission. This particular procurement focuses in on construction management. And as you know, we have a great deal of construction underway. I will turn it to our real estate team that's led by Carlos Bonner, our Vice President of Real Estate, and his team to provide more details.
Hello, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Carlos Bonner, Vice President of Real Estate for HOC. We are here seeking the Commission's approval to select construction managers into the pool of vendors established under the Request for Qualifications RFQ 20. There was a prior pool of construction managers that has now expired, and we're now seeking to reestablish a new pool of vendors that we will utilize on an as-needed basis to help us execute projects. HOC has a two-phase process for selection of vendors, construction managers vendors. This is the first phase of that project, which is a solicitation of qualifications for the vendors to be selected into our pool. At this time, what we're going to be asking for is the authorization to allow those vendors, 7 vendors that we have selected through a process, to be enter into that pool. The second phase we will come back for approval to award these vendors specific contracts to our specific projects. Next slide, please. Just to highlight, these vendors will be engaged with us to help, once they're awarded during the second phase, to help us throughout the whole process of our construction and development management services that will align to the various phases of which we're currently engaged into those specific projects, which could be all the specific services needed in the pre-construction, pre-development phases of alignment of project scopes with the various construction vendors we will need to ultimately have engage on the third-party basis to actually operating management doing construction, and for all the various details that we will require, including budgeting and strategic management, the schedule, and things of such that nature, and representing us as well on any disputes if they should come up, but just overall construction execution management, and be a part of our team throughout the closeout phase as well. Next slide. RFQ 20 established some key criteria that we were evaluating for each of the vendors, and there's a whole list, but their experiences needed to range for what our general scopes are for the projects that we will be executing from all various types of projects, be it single family and multifamily residential developments, as well as the scale of the projects, having values from $1 million to $100 million, and their experiences with all the various aspects of executing construction projects, including entitlement work, procurement of various vendors, and negotiations with general contractors as such. As well as a key criteria is their experience with minority, female, and disabled business enterprises and how they engage with them, or if their sales fits into that category. Next slide. Do want to highlight that this request does not include any budget changes. This is purely just to reestablish the construction management pool, and there are no costs associated with that. The pool that we evaluated consisted of 14 respondents, and we narrowed it down to 7 vendors that we want to reestablish this pool. And we evaluated them on the qualifications of their experience, their systems and processes, the references we received, and again, their minority, female, and disabled status and approach. And the scoring, there was a minimum of 70 points for that each group that we are recommending had to achieve up to a maximum. Next slide. Just want to highlight of these 7 groups that you see before you, 4 of them had previous experience with HOC. 3 are new to CM firms to HOC. And those 3 new firms are APSI, First Choice, and SH Group. Next slide. So at this time, you know, we want to highlight again, there's no adverse budget impact for the selection of this pool. And so at this time, we're recommending to the commission to authorize the president and executive director without further action on his part to execute 7 individual $0 contracts for construction manager services with APSI Construction Management, First Choice Construction, JDC Construction Company, Jones Lang LaSalle Americas, Lambus Rank LLC Owners Rep Consultant, and SH Group Inc. for initial term of 2 years, each with 3 optional 1-year renewals as permitted under HOC's procurement policy. And just to remind you, for the second phase, we will engage in a competitive bid process for those specific projects and return to the commission for approval once we're ready to award. This concludes my presentation, and I can take any questions at this time.
This item was presented to the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee, and we recommended it forward to the full commission for approval. Questions? If there are no questions, could I get a motion to approve Resolution 26-27?
So moved.
A second.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposers, nay. So ordered. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item to come before you is a fiscal year 2026 third quarter budget to actual statements. For the presentation of the third quarter budget to actual statements, I'll turn to our president.
Thank you. Commissioners, this third quarter budget to actual statements presentation came before our BF&A committee and was accompanied with an additional presentation that was provided by our property management, maintenance, asset management team to help share insights and additional information related to our current shortfall. And I strongly encourage commissioners as well as members of the public to watch that presentation. It was pretty comprehensive. We did upload the slides from that as well. It allowed us an opportunity to really see where certain properties were having a significant impact on cash flow. It also afforded an opportunity to share insights in regards to how we're moving along with lease enforcement, as well as provide clarification assurance to the commission in regards to the level of due diligence that has taken place as we have prepared our proposed budget for FY27. And so in addition to this presentation that you will hear from the finance team, I just want to reiterate that our leaders in the operations space have definitely provided a very comprehensive report out on this variance. We are beginning to see improvements and do expect that trend to continue. But with that, I will turn it over to our finance team, our CFO, Tim Getzinger, to provide additional remarks and to get us going in regards to our presentation.
Thank you, President Andrews, commissioners, and the viewing public. For the record, Tim Getzinger, Senior VP of Finance and CFO. And I just want to confirm that you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Perfect. This evening, the finance team will be presenting several items, including the budget to actuals for the third quarter of FY26, a budget reforecast, tenant write-offs, calendar year audits, a request to adopt the FY27 budget, and I'd like to recognize Terry Fowler, our budget officer, Cedric Cord, our assistant budget officer, and our two financial analysts, David Wilson and Kim Pleasant, for their diligent and hard work in crafting next year's operating budget and capital budget. And we will also be presenting on 20 development corporation budgets. The following is a high-level summary of the agency's FY26 Q3 financial position, and staff will provide the details in the aforementioned presentations. HOC's financial health remains stable. Total assets climbed to $2.5 billion, the highest in agency history, driven by real estate activities, including an increase in mortgage loan receivables and restricted long-term investments. Net position continues to be strong at $308 million, the second highest quarterly close in 4 years, and $1.2 million higher than last quarter. However, it is slightly lower than the end of the fiscal year, driven by a $10.2 million operating loss, which is partially offset by a $7.8 million non-operating revenue gain. Current and quick ratios are down slightly from the end of the fiscal year at 1.65 and 1.4 respectively, driven by the undrawn mortgage proceeds payable from the Sage bond issuance. If the current and quick ratios are adjusted for this, the ratios would be 3.89 and 3.3 in March 2026 respectively. The undrawn mortgage proceeds currently sitting at 145 million, excuse me. They are expected to be drawn within a period of 3 years. TAP utilization is stable and up from the end of the fiscal year at 96% for the quarter. Tenant arrearage is reduced by over 2 million and sits at 14 million, which is a 7-quarter low. And we remain cautiously optimistic that this trend will continue. A review of our 9 revolving development funds also demonstrates stability and are projected to improve with upcoming commitment and development fees. Reserves, including the general fund operating and property reserves, are stable. Regarding to the budget to actuals, the renormalization is underway, and staff will provide a reforecast for the fourth quarter of FY26. However, for the third quarter, the quarter-over-quarter total budget variance, which is factoring in all 5 of our agency's funds, it increased by less than 150,000 after posting 3 consecutive quarters of in excess of 4 million. This is the lowest budget variance in 3.5 years. And with the reforecast that we will be presenting, we're actually presenting a similar modest variance, which will actually be an improvement for the fourth quarter. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions, or we can advance to the first packet item, which would be our budget to actuals for the third quarter FY26.
No questions? Tim should go ahead and proceed.
Absolutely. Presenting the first agenda item is Terry Fowler, HOC's budget officer. Terry?
Thank you, Tim. Good evening, Commissioners, President Andrews, staff, and the viewing public. For the record, I am Terry Fowler, the budget officer here at HOC. I will be discussing the third quarter budget to actual statements for fiscal year 26. If we could turn to page 17 of the packet at the top of the chart. Thank you. Overall, the agency ended the quarter with a negative variance of $10.14 million based on a net cash flow shortfall of $10.7 million compared to the anticipated third quarter net cash flow shortfall of a negative $584,000. The primary causes were lower unrestricted cash flow in most of the development corporation and opportunity housing properties due to property performance, coupled with lower income in the general fund that was partially offset by savings in various expense categories in the general fund. Staying at the top, at the very top of the chart, the general fund consists of the basic overhead costs for the agency, and is expected that the general fund will operate as a loss. This fund ended the quarter with a deficit of approximately $5.9 million, which resulted in a positive variance when compared to budget of $587,000. And that is compared to the projected $6.4 million loss for the same period. As of March 31st, 2026, income in the general fund was approximately $2.35 million lower than budget, and expenses were $2.94 million lower than budget. The negative income variance was primarily the result of delays in the receipt of commitment and development fees for fiscal 26. The impact to the general fund due to the size and timing of certain fee income through March was a shortfall of approximately $1.77 million when compared to budget. If in fact the fees had been received as planned, income in the general fund would have a negative variance of just $581,000, and a positive overall variance would have been $2.36 million. In addition, there were also lower draws from the Opportunity Housing Reserve Fund, or OHRF, for real estate personnel and pre-development costs. The impact of the lower fees and draws on income was partially offset by higher interest income earned on unrestricted cash in the general fund, coupled with higher management fees paid by the Housing Choice Voucher Program as a result of higher administrative fees received, that was partially offset by lower bookcoming income paid to the general.
Is she frozen or? Yeah, okay, just wanted
To
to.
grow and is now stable. I'm sorry?
There was a slight glitch. I think you're back on, Terry. Thank you.
Thank you. The positive expense variance was primarily the result of lapse in salary and benefits, coupled with savings in consulting fees, computer software, online information services, miscellaneous contracts, and capital projects, which resulted in lower transfers from the operating budget to cover the cost of the projects. A portion of the savings is timing related and not expected to remain at year end. Next, we will move to the next section on the same chart for the multifamily and single-family bond funds. These funds are budgeted to balance each year as we draw monies from the indentures to pay for the administrative costs budgeted here. Income, which represents the draw, is consistent with budget, and both the multifamily and single-family bond funds experienced positive expense variances of approximately $542,000 and $225,000 respectively as a result of salary and benefit lapse coupled with savings in professional services. Next, we will move to the Opportunity Housing Fund and move to page 16 of your packet at the top. Oh. Something has happened. It's the very next page.
Like the 15.
There, yes. Okay. Before I begin discussing the various portfolios, I just want to remind everyone that the primary drivers to our variances are both bad debt and vacancy loss, and some of the bad debt overages are attributed to an increase in non-paying tenants. Additionally, the properties also experienced higher maintenance costs due to higher anticipated unit turnovers, which corresponds with the lease enforcement and occupancy goals that we have put in place to reduce the vacancy loss. For this top portfolio, this is the unrestricted development corporations. In this quarter, we ended with a negative cash flow of $957,000, which produced $4.4 million less than projected. Again, as mentioned, the primary contributors are lower tenant income due to lower gross rents on a few properties, higher vacancy, coupled with higher bad debt, maintenance, and utility costs. If we move to the bottom section of this same slide, this represents the restricted development corporations, and the shortfall from this group of properties was $482,000 more than budgeted through March 31st of 2026. If we can move to the next page in the packet, please. And the top section, it's rather large. If we could decrease, there you go. Thank you. These properties experienced a negative cash flow of approximately $1.97 million, which is $6 million lower in the receipt of cash for the same reasons we mentioned previously. On the bottom section of this page, we show the restricted properties. And for this group, cash flow was $728,000 lower than budgeted. But I do want to draw a positive note. This group of properties include Cider Mill Apartments, and you will see for the first time in several quarters, the property is actually performing better than budget, showing a positive variance of $365,000, and has recently been removed from the troubled property list. So the improvement of that property has been great over the past year. We can now move to the next page of our packet unless there are questions related to the operating performance of the properties.
Are there any questions? No. Proceed on.
Thank you. This represents the public fund that we are reporting on the Housing Choice Voucher Program. Overall, there was a surplus of approximately $2.19 million. The surplus was comprised of housing assistance payment revenue that exceeded the housing assistance payment expense for the same period of approximately $1.74 million, coupled with an administrative surplus of $451,000. The HAP surplus will be restricted to the net restricted position, or NRP, for future HAP expenditures. The administrative surplus was a result of higher fee income and lower administrative expenses, mainly due to staff turnover, lower contract cost, and the timing of online information service payments that were paid in June 25 that related to the current fiscal year. The higher administrative fee income was primarily the result of a proration reconciliation for calendar 25. Lastly, if we can scroll to page 21 of the packet. This chart shows you the total expenditures for capital for the first 3 quarters of the year compared to the annual capital budget. There are a number of properties that experienced unplanned capital expenditures. The majority of the properties have sufficient property reserves to cover the overages. Where this is not the case, staff will be reviewing the obligations from the Opportunity Housing Property Reserve to ensure sufficient funds are available to cover the balance of any overages. This concludes the presentation of the third quarter for fiscal 26, and I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna sort of go back a little bit to the operating budget for the properties and admit to sort of having a somewhat inarticulate reaction to all the red that I see on the documents. For pretty much almost all the properties are operating in the red, and I thank you, Chelsea, for bringing to my attention yesterday via email the presentation from and the slides. I'm working my way through that, and I want to thank the staff. It's incredibly helpful from the May 26th or 28th meeting. I was away, and I'm just catching up to that now. But I guess I just want to express a sense of alarm that that we're operating in the red on so many properties, and I understand we're facing the issues with the bad debt, and that's going on a lot longer than I imagine anybody expected it. I guess I'm wondering, is there something more fundamental going on here? Was the underwriting wrong? I mean, I guess I'm just a little, I don't know how to ask the right question here, but I just want to express a concern that I see so many properties operating the red, and our $10 million cash flow shortage. At some point, we're going to run out of reserves. So I guess I'm not being, I understand that my question isn't that sharp, but make me feel a little better here.
I will try my best to make you feel better. I will say this. This is not the first time we have presented information to the commission in regards to the challenges that we have faced as a result of being the last to go into court post-COVID, as well as the long tail that we're experiencing as it pertains to stabilizing our assets. I do want to make sure that we're being clear that this is budget to actuals, not necessarily a reflection of if the properties are generating income. It just may not be as much income as we anticipated at the time we created our budget. So
Can I just, so on the column 4, net cash flow actual, is that by comparison or is that the actual number?
Could we go back to that slide that you're talking about?
Can we go back to page 16? Thank you.
I was looking at
Something is happening with the slides. The next page, please.
Right. So I'm looking at column 4, net cash flow. I assume that's actual.
Correct.
So that's not by comparison to the budget, if I'm reading it right?
Right. You see the budget and then you see the actual.
Right.
Correct. And you see that we have had definitely some challenges with regards to property performance. You see that there might be occasions where we thought that we would generate more cash than we have been able to. And so, I mean, and we can go property by property. There definitely are various explanations. Our biggest drivers, as we've identified for the commission, are our scattered sites and what we affectionately refer to as the 3Bs, as driving the largest variances for our properties. But overall, the themes remain the same. Lease enforcement and failure to pay rent, as well as the expenses that we cover as when we recover a unit and have to bring it back online. We are beginning to see that our variances are declining significantly. You will see that there is a reforecast presentation that will also take into account where we have now, we did not do a formal budget amendment, but wanted the commission to have an understanding of where we expect to land at the end of this year. And we use that reforecasting information to help guide our budget process for 27. There's not these are properties that in years when people paid rent were generating income. There are some properties, and just to be clear, for example, our scattered sites and VPCs and et cetera, these are properties that were once public housing properties. Some of our most vulnerable families live in these sites. When they are impacted with challenges with careers or other economic uncertainties, we also feel the direct impact of that. And so those are the properties, and they also demand and require the highest amount of maintenance to turn the units and to keep them active. We're working really hard to get these units back leased, and a part of the presentation does give some indication in terms of where we are in the lease enforcement process. So we're working diligently. Our asset management, property management, and maintenance teams are definitely focused on restabilizing the portfolio, and there's a heightened level of attention on those assets that are the largest drivers of our variances.
But Jonathan, you're right to point this out. I did have in the past. I think Jeff has also that. We get a very broad brush of what the problems are. There's the presentation mentioned, of course, bad debt and vacancy. We don't know how much of the vacancy is caused by evictions and how much of it is because they can't rent the units properly. There's, and your question about, did we originally underwrite some of these deals properly? I've asked those questions. Maybe Jeff has asked, I think possibly also in the past. And we get a pretty shallow look at projects and explanations that are consistently, the projects that are consistently in the red. And so I share your concern. It's been this way since I've been on the commission to some extent, and kind of get the same broad brushes no matter what. And for properties that are consistently negative, I think Jeff has asked this in the past too, but I could be wrong, but just basic due diligence as fiduciaries, that we should get more detail on those projects that are consistently problematic and have a breakdown of, is it CapEx that's the deficit? If it's vacancy, what's the split between they can't rent units at the right rents, or is because the vacancies are caused by successful evictions? I just think we have an obligation to understand more. I haven't had much success, Jonathan, in getting.
I guess I
more
would
detail.
just say that, this is an issue that the Budget Committee has dived into. I think when we do ask questions about specific properties, we do get, more detailed responses. And I think, at our most recent committee meeting, we did discuss, sort of eviction driven vacancies, but like that, that the turnover, the staff has been able to fill vacant units once they become actually available fairly quickly. And so I guess, there's no question that this is a broad concern about the, number of properties that we have in the red. But I guess I do want to defend the staff a little bit here that, when we ask questions about specific properties, we get answers.
Just to be clear, I didn't ask my question to imply any criticism. And I will say, Robin, it's worth looking at that other presentation from the committee, from the budget committee, which does go into some of the detail here. It is helpful. I didn't look at that. So in fairness to staff, I did not look at that. I just wanted to share my nervousness with you and all the red and have the conversation, because I do think, which is something we have to just continue to keep our eye on. I have to say, Chelsea, I'm comforted somewhat by the notion that prior to COVID, a lot of these same properties were making money, and so that speaks a little bit to to the original underwriting and so forth. On the other hand, I would say we're probably going back into an economic situation that's more challenging than we faced pre-COVID, with all the layoffs and all the rest of that. So anyhow, I appreciate the staff's hard work on this and the presentations and
I would
and we'll just
encourage,
we'll continue to keep our eye on it.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage commissioners who have concerns because, your concerns are shared, certainly by the budget committee and by staff. And I would encourage commissioners to go watch, our committee hearings where a lot of these issues have been explored. And particularly in the process of developing the new budget. And so, we'll see the results, but, I've been reassured in part by some of the new efforts that staff have been taking in their approach to the budget. And it's kind of a whole of enterprise approach to, really developing, better forecasting. I think there are, we've had discussions about what's within our control, what's not within our control, and the efforts that are being made for within our control. There's been a lot going on there. I think, obviously in the past few years, we thought we've been conservative in our forecasts, and even those have at times proved to be not conservative enough. I think, staff have been trying to learn lessons from those and apply them to, this year's budget. And it seems to be, it's a different process. And so, there's a lot of testing of those forecasts. So, staff or Chelsea or staff can talk more about it, or Roy can, but, this is not something that the budget committee is skimming over, and neither is staff. So,
Thank you, Commissioner
would just-
Merkowitz.
I would say one of the things, we're going to continue to see red in these reports until a lot of the approaches and things that being done to reduce this began to really take effect. If you were to look at this variance, for example, going back to other years, other quarters and whatnot, you will see that there has been a reduction. It is coming down. So it is moving in a positive direction. So we're going to see this red. So I want you to get overly long. I think that several things. I think the budget committee is focusing. I know we are asking the hard questions. And I think in anticipation of that, the report that I hope all of you all will dig into was prepared anticipating the kind of questions that we were going to be asking. So I think that there is an intention of a high degree, both from the staff as well as from the Budget and Finance Committee, to make sure we began to move and continue to move in the same positive direction for reducing these numbers and then negative balances as the properties. And I think you'll see that going forward.
I want a question with Mrs. Fowler about a cider mill, because she said something very positive about cider mill. What is it that they did? Because if I'm not mistaken, I think they were in the red the last time, and now they on the positive side. So can you just tell me? And that's good.
It's very good.
That's good.
One, occupancy has stabilized at the property in the 90 percentages, and that has not been for some time. They've also done a lot of work at the property in preparation for inspections, and they have done a lot of lease enforcement. So they are an example of it takes time, but we're moving in the right direction.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler.
I'll also add and thank our partners on the county side for the support that they've provided for some of the capital improvements needed at Cider Mill, the security improvements. When you look at our scattered site portfolio, and our CFO can say this best, because of the age of that portfolio, even on its best day, it doesn't generate the amount of revenue needed to address the maintenance of those assets. We have raised these concerns with our state partners, with the county, and with others, because we have certain restrictions that do not allow us to dispose of many of these assets. There are other considerations, of course, as we think about repositioning these assets. But I do want to acknowledge that the revenue that you can obtain from scattered site is so slim. And so when you do have to turn those units, there's a great deal of expense. So we're suffering through that, but we are making our way through. I do believe you will see the outcome of the efforts. Our team was heavily involved, hand in hand with the property management team at Cider Mill, where we did see this improvement. That same level of attention is being applied to the 3Bs and to the scatter sites strategically, as these are the assets that are causing the largest variances for us. Yes.
And I think we've got to look back also at decisions that were made by the commission and related to how we dealt with COVID and how we dealt with evictions. Okay, we made a decision not to evict people during a period of time. And so that has caused a large amount of deficit in some of these properties in terms of operation. So we're working through that, and it's going to take a little time. And again, I'm certainly am as concerned as every commissioner is about making sure we begin to see more black than red. That's not, and we also got to be aware of the getting the characteristics of the red in terms of the scale of it. While this freshman may say Alexander House has a $277,000, let's look and see what that is next quarter. That's what we got. That's what we got to focus our attention on.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Any other questions? If not, could I get a resolution to a motion to approve resolution 26-28?
So moved.
Second.
Who seconded?
I second.
Oh, okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. We'll move to our next item on the agenda, which is dealing with our fourth quarter projections.
Yes, commissioners, this again is a presentation that's being presented to respond to questions that are being raised here and have been raised before. I want to also just reiterate that on a quarterly basis, there's property information. As we do our budgets, there's details. As we do provide the budget to actuals, there's information about each property. If there are specific questions, please do let us know. This exercise was one in which our budget office took the time to pause, look at our current state, and project out where we should anticipate our final FY26 performance being based on our current information. Again, this data is what was used to also help with the various estimates that were used in generating our FY27 budget. I would like to turn it to Terry Fowler, our budget officer, to provide this information to you at this time.
Thank you, President Andrews. Again, for the record, Terry Fowler, Budget Officer for HOC. I do want to mention that this was also, as Commissioner Merkowitz mentioned previous, this was not just a budget office exercise. This was an exercise that involved our property management, asset management, maintenance division, as well as the budget office. We looked at where we were third quarter, and you can see this is just a copy of what we just discussed, showing you our performance through March of 2026. We first started with our actuals through February, and the three operational divisions, asset management, property management, and maintenance, looked at the trajectory for the remaining 4 months of fiscal 26 based on what was happening with occupying vacant units, the lease enforcement going on, and the cost of maintenance are primarily. They did a projection of what we could anticipate occurring over those 4 months. The budget office then updated that projection once we had actuals through April, and we met again with the divisions and keyed in on primarily the occupancy and the bad debt to identify any areas where the trend wasn't moving in the direction that we had anticipated. That's how we developed the reforecast for fiscal 26. But what President Andrews mentioned, which was very important, is we then laid that forecast monthly against the monthly projections that were in the recommended budget that was presented to you on April 8th. And where there was a disconnect, we went property by property and looked at where it came to occupancy, what the trend was and what the efforts are, and if there was an expectation that we weren't where we thought we would be by the end of 26, we aligned the 27 budget to be more in balance with what is currently happening. With the bad debt, we pulled each of the properties that had a difference. We pulled their receivable balances, we pulled their allowance balances and looked at the activity there to not only give you a projection of where we're going to be when we're already sitting in the 12th month of fiscal 26, but more importantly, the plan we're asking you to adopt tonight for fiscal 27. With that being said, the other reason it's important to give you this projection is with the closeout of the fiscal year, you wait until the end of September to hear how June 30 hit. So that is also why we wanted to give you a projection for the fourth quarter. We did the projection for the general fund, the Opportunity Housing Fund, as it relates to the fee income that is anticipated to support that fund in future development, and our Opportunity Housing Fund for our properties. Reforecast does not include the bond funds or the public fund, as those are restricted, and we do not anticipate any impact, either positive or negative, to the agency's bottom line at year end. The chart on this page projects the agency. If we can go to page 2 of the packet, please. And if we can scroll up slightly so we can, thank you. When we did the reforecast, we were projecting a year end of a shortfall of approximately 8.82 million compared to the anticipated shortfall of 1.54 million. The cause, again, is similar to the third quarter. It is the projection of cash that we're getting from our unrestricted properties that has been affected by occupancy, higher maintenance utility cost, and lease enforcement, and the timing of commitment and development fees. We do have some expense savings that has mitigated that, but those are the primary drivers. As you can see, when we adopted the fiscal year 26 budget, we anticipated drawing 1.54 million from our general fund operating reserve to balance it. The general fund projection you see on the first line used the latest forecast for commitment and development fees that we had in the middle of May and annualized the remaining fee income and expenses based on the 10 months actuals. Timing is everything. It's worth noting that when we did this, The Metropolitan closing was anticipated to happen by June 30. We now know that that closing has shifted into fiscal 27. That impact has been incorporated into the budget we're presenting for adoption tonight, but that is going to impact the income in the general fund by just over $1 million, which represents 40% of the funds projected for that transaction. So we will, instead of having the positive variance you see here of the 2.2, that would go down to just over $1.16 million due to that timing of that fee. Not that the income won't come in, but we won't recognize it by June 30th. I will mention that the impact to the fiscal 27 budget you're going to see this evening is a higher positive impact because there's been changes to the budget that's going to result in more income shifting into 27 than is moving out of 26. When we look at the opportunity housing projections, again, we annualize the income based on performance through April, and a strategic view was used in projecting vacancy loss, maintenance costs, and bad debt for the remainder of the year using the most current trends and expectations from the current leasing efforts. And the impact of the most recent trends, as I said, has also been incorporated into the proposed budget. And you see that incorporation in the reconciliation chart for that, showing the impacts to bad debt and vacancy loss. The OHRF projection, again, similar to the general fund, used the latest forecast for commitment and development fees. And again, with the shifting of the Metropolitan, the negative variance here of 5.43 million will increase by 1.58 million, and that is 60% of those fees. As I stated earlier, we had anticipated the need of 1.54 million from our general fund operating reserve. Because the shortfall in our property cash flow exceeds the anticipated positive variance in the general fund, we will end the year with a larger draw from the general fund operating reserve or other resources than was anticipated. And staff will present recommendations for the balancing of this year at our September BF&A meeting. I'm happy to address any questions you have on this point in time reforecast for fiscal year end.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much. That laid the foundation certainly for discussion around the operating budget for 2027.
Thank you.
So thank you for doing this. And this is an action that the staff took that we usually don't present, which is a recasting of the projection for the last quarter of the fiscal year before we get to it. As she says, usually we would see this in September. So thank you for that, advancing this work. We'll go on to the next item on the agenda because this does not require a vote. This is information. We will go on to the presentation dealing with the tenth account receivables.
Yes, thank you, commissioners. This is our quarterly housekeeping exercise where we come before the commission in regards to our uncollectible accounts receivable related to our HOC managed properties. I'm going to turn it over to our CFO, Tim Getzinger, and his team to present this presentation.
Thank you, President Andrews, and a bit of good things to note on this one. The total write-offs in Q3 of FY26 experienced a 54% decline as compared to the second quarter when we had write-offs in the amount of $701,000. The write-offs that we are proposing in the third quarter total $341,000. If we could please go to the chart on the top of page 3. Thank you. HOC's current policy is to provide for an allowance for any tenant accounts receivable balance in excess of 90 days. Additionally, HOC periodically proposes the write-off of uncollected former resident balances. As previously mentioned, the proposed write-off of former tenant accounts receivable balances for the third quarter of fiscal year 2026 is $340,548, and the largest driver of this, again, for the write-offs is lease enforcement. I previously mentioned that this is a significant decline from the previous quarter, Q2 FY26. And as we continue our lease enforcement efforts with a focus on large delinquent accounts, coupled with unit inspections to identify the vacant units, we are hopeful and expecting to continue to see this level of write-offs, which were mostly driven by the OH property, specifically the MHLP 9, which contributed about $100,000 for the write-off, and the VPC 1 Corp, which contributed to about $146,000 of the write-off. The next anticipated write-off of former tenants' uncollectible account receivable balance will be for the fourth quarter of FY26, which will cover the period from April 1st to June 30th, 2026, and we are seeking your support for the approval to write off these uncollectible tenant accounts. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? If not, can I get a motion to approve resolution 2629?
So moved.
Second.
Been probably moved in second. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposers, nay. So ordered. Thank you very much. We will now move to the next item on the agenda, which is our calendar year 2025 audits, acceptance of the low-income housing tax credit partnerships and limited liability company audits.
Thank you, Commissioners. This item comes before you, also came before our Budget Finance Audit Committee. These are for our properties that are on a calendar year audit cycle and are advancing. I'd like to turn it over to our CFO. I will say that we're pleased to share that these audits have resulted in clean findings, but would turn it over to our CFO for further detail and explanation.
Thank you, President Andrews, and no findings, clean audits. This is one of the good packet items, okay? And so for a little bit of a background, can we move to the top of page 3, which is the chart? Can you shrink it down a little bit? That'll work. Thank you. HOC, the agency, is the managing partner of 17 low-income housing tax credit partnerships, which operate on a calendar year basis. Additionally, we have 4 calendar year LLC properties, limited liability companies. One of these LLCs, Wheaton Gateway, did not require an audit for the calendar year 2025. So this memo only discusses those 20 individual calendar year entities. And as the president mentioned, the property audits for the 12 property audits have been completed to date. All of these were clean. The remaining 8 are with the investors and are also expected to be clean. There are 5 remaining low-income housing tax credit audits, as well as 3 LLC audits. And again, I'd like to thank the entire staff, the entire property accounting teams for all of their hard work and diligence in yet another clean round of audits. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
When this item came before the Budget Finance Audit Committee, what we did was recommend this forward to the commission with the understanding that this would be accepted and approved as clean audits. If there was any issue related to the incomplete ones, they would be brought back to the commission. But at this point, this action, I've stated that correctly, Tim?
So so the way that we stated it is that we would not go to the BFNA unless there were any issues identified in the remaining 8. However, we would be coming to the commission directly regardless for the approval of the incomplete 8 remaining audits.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, can I get a motion to approve? Unless
So
there are
moved.
questions. Are there questions?
So moved.
Resolution 26-30 for acceptance of the low-income housing tax credit partnerships
So
and
moved.
LLC audits. All those in favor, it's been probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed, nay. So ordered.
Thank you.
We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the adoption of the fiscal year 2027 budget. And I'll turn to our president.
Yes, thank you. Commissioners, this is definitely one of the largest undertakings that the agency undergoes that's led by our finance team, our budget officer, and with the support of her entire team, as well as every single division throughout the agency in creating a budget that we can present that allows us to operate and fulfill our mission. I will say that as you just focused in and we just focused in on property management, that is one component of this overall holistic budget that we put together on an annual basis. It's accompanied with a recommended budget that we start with in multiple meetings that take place with our Budget Finance Committee to go through our various funds, our recommendations, the presumptions, answer questions, ultimately, and then now come before the full board. Here in this presentation, you will also see a distinct acknowledgement of where there might have been modifications between the last time we presented to BFNA, and all of the modifications are quite frankly positive, but modifications where there might have been changes from that time to now to fine tune the budget. This budget is also presented to you in a very elaborative budget book that is also provided on our website so that members of the public can gain additional information and insight as it pertains to each of the components that roll into the overall budget. But I do want to just acknowledge time and time again that this is a very lengthy process, very tedious exercise that is undertaken, led by the finance team, and want to applaud them for great work and turn it over to Terry Fowler, our budget officer, to go ahead and walk us through what we are proposing for our FY27 budget. Thank you.
Thank you, President Andrews. Again, Terry Fowler, Budget Officer here at HOC. If we could go slightly lower on this first page of the packet, a little bit more. Thank you. You will see here that the FY 2027 budget that we are proposing for approval this evening is $396.4 million for the operating budget. That operating budget is balanced with a projected draw of approximately $2.74 million from our general fund operating reserve and the use of restricted proceeds from the commission in our Opportunity Housing Fund to maintain a balanced budget. We also have a proposed capital budget of $265.5 million. If we could move to page 2 of the packet, please. And right there is fine. The proposed operating budget for fiscal 27 of $396.4 million represents an increase of approximately $1.07 million or 0.27% from the recommended budget presented to the Commission on April 8th of this year of $395.3 million. Details of the changes between the recommended are described on pages 4 through 12 of this packet and summarized in the charts on pages 16 and 17. The primary drivers were changes due to an increase in overall commitment fees, as well as a change in development fees that was a small reduction, but an increase in fees to the general fund. We also had a decrease in development corporation fees, which represent the cash flow from those properties to the agency that is taken as a fee based on refinements in the properties. We also did update our indirect cost model, which determines the rate of fee or percentage charged to our income generating divisions that is paid to the general fund to pay for the overhead of the agency. We had reductions to the debt service payment for the HQ headquarters that will have to be funded by operations for this year. We also had a small increase in debt service at the Bonifant, and the aforementioned refinements for rents, vacancy, and bad debt in our property portfolios to align with recent activity and produce a realistic projection for the anticipated improvement in property operations that we will see over the coming years. We had increased debt service projections for Bradley Crossing and Battery Lane, the removal of the Metropolitan Affordable Property, as that will be re-syndicated later this summer and move into our calendar year tax credit portfolio, and the full restriction of the cash flow from the Metropolitan Development Corporation to support the upcoming renovations. There were slight changes in personnel costs, an increase in HAP funding based on the re-benchmarking done by HUD and new administrative fee rates, and increased funding for our statewide voucher program. I do want to mention that some of our grants have not been finalized. As you heard in the president's report earlier this evening, the HUD budget is still not final. We are basing it on the information we've received thus far. In addition, the continuum of care, which affects our supportive housing program, was not final at the time this budget was developed. So if there are changes, we will inform the commission of those changes. If they are of a magnitude that warrants a budget amendment, we will bring a budget amendment to the commission for approval in future meetings. Or if they are not warranted for a budget amendment, we will explain the variances when we present our quarterly budget to actuals. As a result of the changes made, the anticipated draw of $4.629 million that was included in the recommended budget has been decreased by approximately $1.89 million to $2.74 million for the proposed budget this evening. The proposed capital budget of $265.5 million represents an increase of $19.1 million or 7.74% from the recommended budget presented in April. The details of this increase are described on pages 12 and 13 of the packet and summarized in the chart on page 18. The increase in the capital improvements budget was the result of an increase in the budget for Bradley Crossing, net of the removal of the capital budget for the Metropolitan Affordable units that will move into the tax credit budget calendar year.
Terry, just to make sure I'm clear, and as we're looking at the cover page, did you want the team to turn to the page that you're referring to? Or
No, I'm staying here and just giving the high level of it, and just referring the team and the audience to what page in the packet they can see a more detailed itemization of those changes.
Okay.
For the large increase in the capital development budget, that is the result of changes in the timing of two capital development transactions, primarily the Metropolitan moving out of fiscal 26 into 27, and the Westwood Towers transaction moving out of fiscal 27 into a future year. If we can now turn to page 21 of the packet. This is a representation of the proposed budget by fund, specifically the general fund, the multifamily and single-family bond funds, as I mentioned earlier, that are balanced for the year to cover the costs from the draws. The Opportunity Housing Fund, which includes the OHRF and our properties, and the public fund, the largest portion of that, which is the Housing Choice Voucher Program and our other federal, state, and county grants. If we can move to the next page of the packet. This is the breakdown of the budget by major expense and income categories. This is a chart that you will see in the adopted budget book that will be made available later in the month of July, and also, as President Andrews mentioned, published on our website. If we can move to page 23 of the packet, you will see a breakout of the income for our FY27 proposed budget. The grants make up approximately 44.9 million of the budget, or $178 million. And the majority of that is our housing assistance payment subsidy received by HUD, which accounts for almost 143 million of our overall budget. We have another 30.84%, or 122.2 million in revenue from our properties, with the balance coming from the management fee income that includes the fees generated by mortgage finance and real estate, as well as the fees paid to the general fund for overhead. And you see on the right side, the 61.4 million of non-operating is comprised of our interest income on our bonds primarily, as well as a small amount of interest income earned on our unrestricted funds, our FHA risk sharing, and transfer between funds, which is a mechanism used because we adopt our budget by fund, and when monies move between the funds, we have to officially transfer those funds. If we move to page 24 of the packet, this is the distribution of the expense side, with our operating expenses comprising 291.97 million, or 73.66% of our total budget. Again, the housing assistance payments, the actual expense side of 145 million, is the largest portion of our expense distribution, coming in at 36.4%. The right side, the non-operating expenses, are comprised of our debt service payments, our reserve contribution, the various transfers that we show as either income to the fund receiving the transfer or expense to the fund transferring the money out, restrictions of cash in our portfolio, and the development corporation fees, which are the unrestricted cash that is expensed to the properties as a fee. If we can move to page 26 of the packet. This chart reflects our restricted and unrestricted revenue of the total $396.4 million. Only approximately 37 million, or 9.34%, is available for discretionary spending. The restrictions on the income are either grant or bond requirements, debt service payments or reserve contributions, or internal restrictions to cover the cost of operating and maintaining our properties. If we can move to page 27, please. This chart depicts our total capital budget for fiscal 27 of 265.5 million. It includes capital improvements on our headquarters, as well as our investment in information technology and the capital improvements in our properties totaling 10.4 million, and the capital development projects that are included, and this does not represent the total cost of the transaction. It is only the cost that is anticipated to occur during fiscal 27. Therefore, you will see properties here that were in prior years and may continue into future years. And the total transactional cost projected for this year is $255.1 million. The charts on the next 2 pages show the distribution of the sources and uses for our capital development budget. If we turn to page 28, unlike the distribution charts for our operating budget, which are relatively constant from year to year, the sources and uses for the capital development can change significantly from year to year, primarily based on the financing structure of the capital development deals, as well as the cost for that particular year. You can see that bond financing for the development budgets is just over half of the funding sources. But as depicted here, there are many various sources used to fund the developments of the agency. If we move to page 29, this is showing you how those funds are being projected to be used in fiscal 27. Again, with almost half of that going into the rehabilitation or construction of new properties, and the balance represents the distribution of the remaining expenses. That concludes the presentation for this evening. But before I end, I want to reiterate what President Andrews mentioned, is that this presentation and all the work that went into developing this budget involves every aspect of the agency. It is not a one-shop job. And the collaboration and the work that was done between the divisions up until the last minute, and when I say last minute, I do mean that, is greatly appreciated. We could not do it without the input of the departments, and we appreciate all the efforts that went into bringing this to you this evening. And with that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Before we take questions from the commissioners, I will say that the Budget Finance and Audit Committee, after the presentation of the draft budget was given to us in April, had numerous meetings with the staff to go over and review the different funds that make up, in fact, the structure of this budget, including our capital budget. And so with that, I want to just say I appreciate the refinements that have been made from the beginning of the proposed budget to where we are right now. And the committee reviewed this, and we recommended the approval of the fiscal year 27 budget forward to the commissioners. With that, I will take questions from commissioners.
No questions, but also just to reiterate, what was said previously, that, the committee spent a lot of time, asking questions about this. I encourage, other commissioners to watch it on YouTube if they haven't already. You can watch it on double time, like I like to watch my YouTube videos. And just to thank the staff, they took our hard questions. They responded to everything. They got back to us if they didn't have answers right away. Just really appreciated the effort that went into this, and the willingness to do different, think about it differently than they have in the past, and to try new approaches. So thanking the staff.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I would ask for a motion to approve resolution 26-31A and 26-31B. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Properly moved in second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered.
Thank
And,
you.
Thank you.
I want to thank all the commissioners for their indulgence and hard work during this period of time. We are a growing enterprise. As you can see, our budget from 27 is expanding beyond 26, and I can expect that will continue to grow based upon the investments that we are making right now and going forward. So thank you all for the work. Can I get a motion to recess the meeting in order to convene the annual meetings of the Development Corporation?
So moved.
The second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? The Development
Did we,
Corporations are
did we
entities
approve
that are
both
wholly.
resolutions for the budget? I'm sorry.
We did.
Yes,
Okay, sorry, just making sure.
the Development Corporations are entities that are wholly controlled by HOC and own various properties. For each development corporation, the board of directors is comprised of the HOC commissioners, and the officers are the same as the officers of the commission. Each development corporation will consider a resolution that is seeking 3 approvals. The first is to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation. The second is the approval of its fiscal year 27 operating and capital budgets. The third is to authorize the president of HOC to execute documents approved by the corporation. I now call the meeting of the Alexandria Housing Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-001A AH has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Berkeley Apartments Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-001BA has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second? All in
Second.
favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call to order the meeting of the Brookside Glen Apartment Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-001BG has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So
Move.
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Diamond Square Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-001DS has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
nay. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Glenmont Crossing Development Corporation to order. Resolution -001 GC has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Glenmont Westerly Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-001GW has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Magruder Discovery Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-001MD has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed, nay. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Metropolitan Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-003ME has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Montgomery Arms Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-001MA has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
So
Is there a
moved.
second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Oaks at Four Corners Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-002 OC has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, so ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Patton Square Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-001 PS has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Pooks Hill Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-001 PH has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the RAD 6 Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-002 RAD 6 has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Scattered Site 1 Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-001 002 SS1 has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Scattered Site 2 Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-002 SS2 has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Sligo Hills Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-002 SH has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the TPM Development Corporation to order. Resolution 26-002 TPM has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the VPC 1 Corporation to order. Resolution 26-001 VPC 1 has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in
Second.
favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the VPC 2 Corporation to order. Resolution 26-001 VPC 2 has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, I now call, which is this, Wheaton Metro.
What did you say?
Wheaton Metro Development Corporation to order.
Okay.
Resolution 26-001 WM has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I got lost because I didn't think we'd gone through that fast.
Can I, Mr. Chairman, can I just get a point of personal privilege here? Your masterful run, speedy run through that reminded me that we should at least take a second to acknowledge the passing of probably the fastest talking congressman and a really great friend of affordable housing, Barney Frank,
Yeah.
in the last couple of weeks. And just a champion for public housing, a champion for vouchers, a champion for tax credits. Really just as good a champion for the construction and preservation of affordable housing as this country has ever seen. So just wanted to take a moment to recognize that.
And I thank you for that very much. He was a great man, a great leader. This concludes the Development Corporation meetings. We will now reconvene HOC's regular monthly meetings. Regular meeting is now reconvened with no other business to come before the corporation. At this time, the June meeting of the Housing Opportunities Commission is adjourned as of 6:25 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.